We have a fellow mama here, and we're so excited to have her here. She's not only a mother to two beautiful boys, she's also a loving wife, a proud auntie, and she's also a very proud East Coaster. Beyond holding the prestigious title of mom, she also holds a game-changing role in the sports world. Whitney Bell is a Chief Marketing Officer, CMO, of the Toronto Tempo, the WNBA's newest team. With over 16 years of experience in marketing and leadership for major brands, she's at the forefront of the exciting new chapter in Canadian basketball. The WNBA recently announced its expansion into Canada, awarding Toronto's its first ever franchise. Woo. We're here for this, marking a historic moment as the league's first team outside the United States.
That's right.
The Toronto Tempo will hit the court in the 2026 season. As a former OUA varsity soccer player, Whitney is proof that a love for sports can open doors to incredible opportunities. We are thrilled to have her here with us. So welcome, Whitney, to Mom and Her. We're so excited to have you. Thank you for saying yes to being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here.
As if our sweaters didn't give it away before we announced you.
I love it.
But yes, we are rocking the Tempo merch with pride. We appreciate you stopping by the studio to talk all things. You know, of course, we will get into basketball and we will get into career, but also motherhood and how that also plays a huge role in your life, obviously, right? One of the greatest titles you can have.
100%. I love that you started with that because I was like, that is my most important title right now.
Yeah. We all have had different journeys. Sometimes it happens really fast. Sometimes it takes a long time, and everyone's journey is different. So, I always want to hear, how did you become a mom to two beautiful boys?
So I didn't have the easiest journey, but I believe everything happens for a reason. And so I always just imagine that, like, you want to get pregnant and it happens, and it would be as easy as that. And my mom had very easy pregnancies with me and my sisters. But I, even before I met my current husband, I was having all these kind of health issues, just a lot of pain in my abdomen, and it took a year really to figure out what was going on, and it ended up being an issue with my fallopian tubes. And so my OB at the time recommended hey, I think you should just have these removed because there's scarring in them, and it was all unexplained.
Your fallopian tubes removed.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so before I met my husband, I knew that I was going to have that surgery, which meant if I wanted to have kids, it either had to be through adoption or IVF. So it took me a minute to just, process that. And then when we started dating, I'm at which point do I also drop this news that hey, if we're going to want to have kids, this is going to happen, which we actually talked about really early on. And he was so supportive of. So because of that, I did have the surgery, had them removed. And then after we got married, we started that process pretty quickly. I felt really fortunate that in Ontario, we had at least one round of funding from the government. And
it adds up.
It does. It's not cheap. And then we were really lucky that in our first round of IVF, we got 3 embryos. And so the first that we did was Hendrix, my now 4-year-old. I felt really lucky. That worked really great. When he was, I think, around 2 years old, we were okay. I felt mentally, I was okay, I think we can think about having
survived the sleepless nights.
Survived. And then we transferred the second embryo, and unfortunately, I miscarried on that one. And the third embryo that we had was something called a myopic embryo. Essentially, what that meant is there's still a lot of research and science being done about it, but it's more than 20% abnormally, or the chromosomally abnormal, meaning you have a higher rate of having a miscarriage. So my OB at the time was we could transfer this, but knowing you just went through this, I'd actually suggest you doing another round of IVF. And that took me a while to wrap my head around, just because it's all the medication. It takes a huge toll on your body, the amount of hormones. It really took me 2 years to come down from all the hormones. But then at the end of the day, we decided that we really wanted to have a second child, or at least try. So we went through another round and I got one embryo.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was freaking out because I was like, oh, the chance of this working so minimal, but it did. And so I had Quincy, who's now 14 months old. That was actually a really difficult pregnancy. So I thought, okay, because I did IVF and I put my body through all these, I should have like good pregnancies, but that's not the case.
No.
With him, I developed severe preeclampsia and HELLP syndrome at the end. So I needed like an emergency C-section. And it was like a very hard kind of recovery from that one as well. So I think going through it, it was a lot, but now on the other side, it's like, it was worth it. And I feel like actually really lucky because I have, a lot of friends now going through it, and just the fact that I only had to do 2 rounds, like a lot of people I know had to do multiple rounds. Yeah. But that's been just my journey to motherhood.
You talked about the journey of, so you went once and then you went twice. And so now here are your 2 beautiful boys and you had them. And you mentioned that your first is a COVID baby. Yeah. Walk us through what that journey was. So it was like, okay, one obstacle was, all right, let's get pregnant.
Yeah.
You're like, got through that. And then now it's, all right, let's raise these kids 3 years apart, but still in the pandemic. What was becoming a mother in the pandemic like for you? Because I know a lot of women have had all kinds of experiences, especially during that specific time frame.
For sure. I remember, so the day that I was supposed to do my transfer was the day like
the world shut down?
NBA shut down, Tom Hanks got COVID. Like I remember it so vividly. And my clinic called me and they're like, I'm so sorry, but like, we don't really understand like fully what's going on, but like we have to shut the clinic down. We're not going to do any more transfers. And I begged them. I was like, please, like I had done, I think the progesterone shot.
Yeah, you
like,
have to prepare.
The night before. Yeah. And I was like, please, please, please. And I don't know how, but they were like, okay. So I think I was like one of the last transfers that they did, which ended up being my son. I know. So that's why I'm like, I feel like everything happens for a reason. Yeah. And then when he was born, so he was born November 2020, and a week before he was born, they discovered he had something called a volvulus, which is like his intestines were twisted. So they were like, when he's born, we'll have the pediatric team from Sick Kids like there, and we'll have to do like an immediate surgery, just because if like he were to eat or anything, he could like choke and it could be really dangerous. So I felt so scared about it, but I had him at Mount Sinai, and then there's actually a tunnel under the ground to Sick Kids, which I didn't know about. So they I had a C-section with him, and then they like took him, whisked him away to Sick Kids like immediately, and he had the surgery, like the little like just, and he was a preemie too.
Did you know that he had that issue?
I found it at my 36-week ultrasound.
Wow.
So I found it at 36 weeks, and then I had him at 36 weeks and 4 days. So he was technically a preemie by like 3 days, and I think the stress of it like put me into labor. But they were so amazing. He was in the NICU for 2 weeks, but then he's totally fine now. Like he's graduated from Sick Kids and he's doing great. But I think with COVID at the time was you could only have one parent in. And so I'm like, this is so strange where it's like I would come and then I would have to leave and then my husband would come. So it was nice in the fact we would get to go home and like have a little rest. But just the things like that, I'm like, it's so strange looking back on, and like always masked. Like he couldn't really see what our faces looked like or what was going on. And then I think it was definitely a very different experience between that maternity leave and my second son.
With Quincy.
Yeah, with Hendrix, it was like couldn't go to a coffee shop, couldn't do anything. We wanted to go back to Nova Scotia to visit family. We had to quarantine for 2 weeks every time we went. Yeah. And so I found that maternity leave pretty like difficult and like isolating as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nehemiah was a COVID baby, true and true, and the same. It was weird compared, and because I had two different times, you just realize how much you missed out on. With your first.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you are someone, you and your husband, your family, you're on a bit of an island. You're settled here. You have your home in Toronto now, obviously working for the Toronto Tempo, and your husband also here for work, but you're both East Coasters. And that means that all of your family, your parents, your sisters, your aunts, uncles, your families on both sides are back home in Nova Scotia. And so how has that been, being not quite having that familiar village that others are fortunate to have?
Yeah, it's definitely been tough. And I think until you go through a situation like this, you don't understand like how important that support group is. I'm so close to my sisters and my mom. So even after I had Quincy, I think it was like I'd been home a day, and I called her, and I was just a mess. And I was like, Mom, I just like need you. And she was on a plane that same day. And so she came up for like a week, and then Jeremy's mom came up for a week, and just having them around, I was like, this is why it's like, it takes a village, like why that saying exists. Right. So, I mean, as the kids have gotten older, it's gotten better. We do a lot of trips there, but I also think we've made our friends our family in Toronto. So it's like my best friend, I had some like complications after the birth. I had to go back to Emerge. It was like a snowstorm in the middle of January. And Jeremy just like couldn't come because he had to, like, someone had to watch the kids. And so I called her, and I was like, is there any, and she was like, there in a heartbeat. Like, she stayed the whole night with me. And I was like, so it's like those people in your life like become your family.
Of course. Yeah, chosen family.
Yeah. And so it's always been a struggle, like, you know, having everyone there. But it's like our lives are in Toronto right now, and we're happy here right now. But like, who knows in the future?
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
I love the perspective, because I think too, sometimes other parents or other moms have all this help in the world, but I may not. But it's always interesting to find out, like, actually, like, no, you know, it's, I do struggle, or like I do have help, but it's not the conventional look of help, right? Like the mom and the dad on standby, like the grandparents' house right here. And it's like, no, my help looks like my best friend and her family, and, you know, my coworker who's become like family to me, or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Sometimes you have to literally create your village. And I also remember too, there was this reel that I found where, you know, a lot of parents, specifically moms, say how there's no village anymore in 2025. Like, the village has dissipated, right? Whether that's because of family or whatever the case is. And the whole point of it was, you have to be willing to be the village for someone in order to receive the village back to you as well. So it's like, are you the friend that's like, listen, I can tell you're stressed right now. Let me Uber you a pizza. Don't even worry about
doing
that
for me.
I do stuff. But, you know, it's like little things like that. Or it's like, hey, you know what? You don't have any help? Bring Kennedy over. What's 3 kids versus 2? What's 4 versus 5? Like, you know, it's like, so it's those little things about, sometimes we have to create our own village in this generation. So instead of, and because I know I felt that, I felt frustration. Like, I wish I had more help. I wish I had a larger support system, system. But sometimes it's going to look like creating it ourselves, versus just waiting for it to come, because you might just be waiting forever. Walk us through your journey. You know, where were you in your career when you became a mom, and then to now, as obviously I would imagine this is a dream job for you, or it's definitely you know, a new challenge, and how you are trying to find the rhythm.
So with my...
Or the tempo.
I see what you did there. So I was on, so with Hendrix, my first, I was on mat leave, and it was like peak COVID. And at that time I was working at Lyft, the ride sharing company, leading marketing for Canada. And obviously, like, think of industries impacted, ride sharing was massively. No one was going out, as they shouldn't have been. And so I did a lot of like soul searching at that time. I was really close with my manager, and I was like, hey, like, I'm just like feeling a bit uneasy. Like, what am I coming back to? And most of the projects I'd been working on, so I'd been working on international expansion and all these things. And it was just like, that is all getting put on hold. Like, the company just has to focus on like its core services right now. And so I started having some conversations, thinking about like, okay, what might be next then? And I met Dan Park, who's the CEO of this technology company called Clutch. And he was amazing. He actually previously had been at Uber, so we kind of had ran in a bit of the same circles. And he had pitched me the idea, like, hey, come to this like Series A startup. It's Canadian. You can build the team from scratch. We really want to start building the brand. And it's in the like car, in the auto category. And I was like, I don't really like care about cars. Like, it's not really my thing. But the more I talked to him, I was like, this is a really cool opportunity. Like, I don't think I would have considered this before, but now I'm like, this is truly like a once in a lifetime. And he was a dad to like 2 young kids. And that was really appealing to me, because I was really nervous. I'm like, this is my first job, like coming off mat leave, switching careers, like going to a startup. This seems a little bit crazy. But the fact that he had done it and he was there as like a supporter, I was like, okay, let me try this. And so that was sort of my first, like off of mat leave back into the working world. And it was pretty good. Like, definitely a bit of a shock to my system, like getting into a new routine, having to figure things out. But I was like, okay, I can do this. And then when I was on mat leave with Quincy, I had a recruiter reach out about this role. And like I was telling Kayla earlier, I thought they were like joking at first when they reached out. I think it was like they called me and I'm like, for what? Like, are you sure? And I was like, this is my dream job. And Quincy was 5 months old at the time. And so in my head, I was just like, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? But like, I really want this. So I went through the interviewing process, and it wasn't until the last interview where I think Teresa was like, is there anything else like about yourself you want to share? And I was like,
by the way,
I was like, I have like a 3-year-old and I have like a 5-month-old. And I think everyone was like, oh, okay. But they were so supportive. And then once they offered me the role, it was just like, hey, like, are you okay to like come back to work right now? Like, are you feeling okay? So I really appreciated that. And I was vocal that I was concerned about coming into this world. Like, I hadn't worked in sports before, and how was I going to do that with like a new baby and this toddler? And I remember Teresa being like, we just want everyone to bring their best self to work, and however that is, like, that's okay, and we're here to support you. And so it definitely was like hard at the beginning. I was like, figuring it all out. I think I'm getting a little bit better at it now, but the team's been really supportive. We have some other parents on the team right now too, which has been really great. And to your point, like, I don't think work-life balance is a thing. That's a myth. Yeah. But figuring out how to juggle all the balls, I'm hopefully getting better at.
But you also mentioned too, Jeremy, right? And so when you got that call from the recruiter and then you were like, oh my gosh, okay, so they're not joking. I'm not getting punked. Yeah. This is a legitimate opportunity. Yeah. Speak to the importance of a supportive partner when being so career driven and wanting to go for it, right? I'm sure you wrestle with all these thoughts, but then when you have a supportive partner, how did he play a role in this process of choosing to go down the path with the tempo?
Yeah, so he was my first call, I think, when I got off the phone, and he, like, it was immediately like excitement, because he was like, this is what you're meant to be doing. Like, he knew, I had learned so much at Clutch, but I was like kind of looking for that next, like, what's my passion and like what do I really want to be doing? And I was like, this is it. Like, this is everything that I've ever wanted. But yeah, I did have those thoughts in my head, like, okay, now we have 2 young kids, and he has a very busy career. He's a lawyer, and he works really crazy hours. And so I was questioning, like, can we even do this, like, without having like family in the city? But he was like, we will figure it out. He's like, there's so many people before us that have been able to figure this out, and like, we can figure this out too. So it was a lot of discussions. I feel like sometimes our calendars are just like, we're sending each other like, okay, this is your night, this is my night. And like, we kind of joke sometimes, we're like, we'll go on date night in like 2 years. Like, right now we're just like in the thick of it. Yeah. But yeah, I think without having him and his support, it would have been really tough. But he's known that I'm very like career driven and independent. I'm a Taurus. I'm very stubborn.
He knew what he was
getting himself into. And so like, I don't think he would want it any other way though.
Yeah, it sounds like you have the perfect partner for you.
Yeah.
And that is so key in like communication and just working together and compromising. And that's what partnership and marriage is about.
Yeah.
And then when you add kids to the mix, it does shuffle things.
Yeah.
But I think that's such a great share to show how supportive he has been in your dreams and also you of his.
Yeah.
But you did speak on feeling guilty. I think as moms, even as a mom to an older child, we've had guests on who talked about mom guilt. I don't think it ever goes away, but in terms of your mom guilt, how did you deal with that? And like, what were things that you felt guilty about, and how did you move forward and past that?
It was tough at the beginning. I'm like, I don't want to miss the moments of like Quincy learning to walk or that. I think the way I was able to overcome it, and I probably overcame it faster than a lot of women, was my mom went back to work at 2 weeks. So she like was pregnant with me while she was writing exams for like dental school, and she like literally went into labor like with me, and then she's like, no, I need to finish the exam, and the professor's like, you need to go, and like
you need to push is what you need to do.
But she's like always instilled in like me and my sisters, like she's been such a good role model, and so I think knowing that, I'm like, okay, she went back to work at 2 weeks, and I'm like, I've never felt any type of like resentment or that she wasn't around for me. Like, she's been my biggest supporter. I was like, okay, I think if she could do that, then like, to your point earlier, it's like your kids seeing you out there doing your thing and like being happy, and like, I'm happy when I'm working. To me, I was like, that's probably more important than just like always being around.
I want to talk about, so you mentioned Teresa and the Tempo team when you were interviewing for this role, and that they were supportive. They were very supportive of you being a mom, and that there are fellow moms that you work with that are part of the Toronto Tempo franchise. And of course, you know, all of the excitement is just continuing to build the buzz around Canada's first WNBA team. The excitement is real and it's growing, even though we're still roughly a year out. But how important is it that moms are part of the executive team, and how they're going to manage and lead with that lens in mind?
I think it's extremely important, just knowing, like, you look at the league and like so many of these amazing athletes, like they are moms. And that is really important as we're planning our player facilities and even thinking through, like, in the stadium. So we're playing at Coca-Cola and it's like, okay, like, where's the room for like the kids during the game? Not just like the players, but the coaching staff. And like Monica, our general manager, like, she's a mom. So I think just having that lens has been really great. And it's like not even just the moms, like Pat, our CFO, like he's got 2 young kids and he's such a great ally too. And like, you know, like thinking through how is this going to impact our players. So it's been really important, I think.
You know what I love? I feel like there is a shift happening now where being a mom now is looked at as a superpower as opposed to a detriment.
Yeah.
So for instance, like, I can't remember who it was, but they had a successful career, went on mat leave. So they were gone for about 3 years and then they returned and then and they're doing successfully well. And on their LinkedIn, during those 3 years she was gone, she put mom and she put all of those strengths. And but we know in the past it hasn't always been like that. Right? Like, you know, there have been times where sometimes you worry, right? You even mentioned, okay, by the way, I am, you know, I have a 5-month-old, right? Because there's that part of you that holds your breath, because some people may view that as like, oh shoot, can she do the job if she's got this young kid, right?
For sure.
And I think that that's a thought that crosses a lot of women who are career driven. How do you lean into it? Like, how do you feel like, has it made you a better woman, like, in your career field? Like, are you more intentional with how you work and how you lead and like even just how you think?
Absolutely. It's like, I feel like it does actually change your brain chemistry, but it has definitely changed the way I work. I've always had like a strong bias for action, but I've become so efficient since I've become a mom, because I know, like, you only have so many hours in a day. And it's like, when I get home, those are my time to spend with my kids. So I feel like I move pretty quickly, and like my team knows that. I don't take, you know, I think it's great when people actually like take a break for lunch and like chill, but I tend to like work through kind of like those breaks just so I can kind of leave when I need to pick up my kids and get home. And then I'll like log back on later. So it's like, I don't work a typical 9 to 5 at all. But yeah, I've become more efficient. I think I've also just I've always been an empathetic person, but now having kids, it's just like, you don't know what someone else is going through. Because I remember even when I was going through my IVF and my miscarriage, like, I wasn't telling people. I was told maybe one of my coworkers I was really close with, but I didn't tell anyone else. And I was like, I was going through that and no one knew. So I'm like, who knows what other people are going through? Like, all the time. It's just like, yeah, you have to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
So I want to talk more about the Tempo and just the excitement building around it, right? You know, so we're roughly a year out, which feels or sounds like a long time, but I'm sure if anyone, I mentioned it feels like, you know, 4 years feels like a long time with the Olympics, but people who are planning the Olympics know it's not a long time.
Yeah.
So what's it been like? You know, the buzz, it feels like the city has just taken to the team, the excitement, the launch. And then you know, there was some leakage, and then there was, and then you like went all out with all right, this is us, this is the Tempo. And then the merch drops and all of these things have been coming along, and like the buzz, you could just feel it growing.
Yeah.
So how's it been? What's that journey been like?
It's been a roller coaster, or like, I guess a rocket ship, but very fun to be a part of. There's been so many emotions because I joined mid-September, and so the brand, like the name and the logo, was like pretty far along when I joined. So I kind of came in at the tail end, and then it was like, okay, we're gonna launch this. And originally we had planned for January. In sports, nothing goes as planned, so we ended up launching in December. And I think that first week was tough on me, just because there was so much excitement. Like the amount of impressions we had, it was like you couldn't not hear about the name and the logo.
For sure.
And there was a lot of feelings about it, positive and negative. And I remember just coming home and I was like, people hate it. And Jeremy's like, no, they don't. You're just like looking at one very small segment. And he's like, so much thought and like, you know what's been put into this. And he's like, when the Raptors first launched, no one liked their name or logo either. He's
That's
like,
actually true.
He's like, just give it time. And now I think we've seen that shift where it's been such a positive community. Everyone's like, regardless of whether we like the name or not, like we're getting behind this team and we're so excited to have this in Canada. And now we've had like the merch launch. Monica joined as their GM, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And then with the Serena Williams announcement, it's just been...
that took me out.
A lot of people are like...
One was like, whoa, wait a second.
Like, Monica,
you guys kept that one close to the chest.
Yeah,
we
like,
did. We kept that very under wraps.
Hearing
like,
Monica and like who she is and just her press conference speech, I was like,
she's amazing.
wow, she's a perfect leader for this team. But then the Serena thing on top of it, I was like, you guys just need to stop. I could not even drive properly.
We need Serena, Monica, Whitney. We need a Mom's Day, Toronto Tempo Mom's Day to highlight all the amazing women and moms on this with this franchise because the list is long.
Well, I do. I love that when we are playing, like our season will be over like Mother's Day and things like that. So we'll have to do something around that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the crazy part is I started playing basketball in grade 7. So then when the WNBA started was in 1997, I was in grade 10. And that is when I was falling in love with basketball. Yeah. And my dream was to play in the NBA because there was no WNBA.
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
And then it launched and I was like, I am making the WNBA, and that was my goal. And I got the shirt, and I think we drove. My parents drove us out. I don't know what team it was, but we drove to a game because obviously there's no team here. But it just changed my life to see women play professionally and just my role models were Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson, and then it shifted to Cheryl Swoops and then like Sue Bird, and just listen, it changed my life. And I always wanted a Toronto team. I just, not to say I didn't think it was going to happen, but the fact it's happening now, part of me is like, couldn't it have happened early? Not to say I would have been on the team. I'm a little bit tiny for the WNBA because their point guards are like 6-something, but whatever.
But still, just to have the opportunity.
Just the opportunity, the dream, even just to be a part of the Tempo. But regardless, just the shift in the focus on Canadian sports, women's basketball. I am so excited. Obviously, we both have daughters, we hope that they're going to play sports, whatever sport that they choose.
I think regardless of whatever sport, like even if, hey, my daughter plays soccer, but you know what? Honestly, when I heard about the Tempo, coming here, like I'm so in. Like I think that that's a sentiment for a lot of people, whether, you were a diehard basketball player or not, there's something exciting about this is finally happening and it's here. And I think what's beautiful, and we'll only see probably in a few decades from now, is the ripple effect. So the same way we had the ripple effect, the Carter effect, or the Raptor effect, right? When the Raptors came to Toronto, we will only know in time the impact of the Tempo on this generation of our kids, right? Of Quincy, of Naya, of Neo, of Kennedy. And I think that is really awesome.
I agree. I went to see the Raptors documentary like last week about the 30th anniversary, and seeing what they were going through at the beginning, and I was like, that's us right now. And it was kind of cool. It's like, who knows what will come, but I think it will make such a big impact, because I was the same way. I remember being in, I think it was like high school or junior high at the time, watching, like, it was like Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, and but I had a Michael Jordan poster in my room.
Yeah, did.
The fact that boys and girls will get to dream now, and they have these amazing women on the court now. As we wrap things up, and you mentioned how when the buzz came out, right, Toronto got its first team. It's like there's steps to this, right? Yeah. So Toronto announces they're getting our first team. Everyone's excited, or Canada's getting their first team, I should say. Everyone's excited. And then it was the launch of we are the Toronto Tempo. So now, and then you launched the colorway and the colors and everything. And now I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, all right, so what's the mascot going to be?
That's the number one question we get. I think the fun thing with Tempo is we can make the in-game presentation like so fun. Like you think about that, like all the different types of music, and Toronto is like such a diverse city. So we can bring that all into the game.
I saw someone said they would hope the mascot would be like a raccoon. Because and I was like, oh, heck
that
no.
probably has been, I don't know if it's a joke or not, but yeah, that has been highly suggested. I think that it already exists for some other sports teams.
Good, because it's not going to be our mascot.
Yeah, no. And I have my own personal feelings. I have like a battle with a raccoon every day. My compost bin.
Yeah, no, no. We will keep the raccoon somewhere else, but not even a beaver either. Like, I know people want it to make it really Canadian.
Sure.
But no.
Yeah. I think there's ways to make it very Canadian without it being something like
an animal that is here.
But I guess how exciting is it for you though, Whitney, that you're at the helm of this, right? As the chief marketing officer, that you get to set the tone for what is going to be, on people's chests and jackets and on their backpacks and maybe like stickers on their car or whatever the case is. Like that's exciting.
Oh, it's like surreal. I still like pinch myself every time I'm like out in the wilds and I see someone with a Tempo like piece of gear. I get so excited. Like my mom called me. She's like, someone at the Halifax like game was watching or like wearing a piece. Yeah. I feel so privileged and honored like to be in this role, and like I don't take it lightly. There's a lot of pressure. Like there's a lot of eyes on it. We're the first international team in the W, and hopefully we do such a good job that there's other teams across Canada eventually too. Like that's the goal. And there's been an amazing group of people who have set the path to get us here. It's not like we're just coming in, and nothing's been done. There's amazing groups like Hoop Queens and like the NBA Canada team. And there's so many grassroots organizations that have gotten us here. And so now I'm just happy that we can come in and be a part of it. And hopefully we can just grow it even more.
Yeah, I love that you said that. So I know I put my name in for the season tickets.
Yes.
Did you end up doing that? Putting a deposit down?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Yes.
So what I was like, literally when they said that, like put your name in the hat. So that's something I could see us like going to a game with the kids, season ticket holder. Yeah, I cannot wait to hear more about that.
We'll be sharing more details soon about like how to convert those into actual tickets, because we've had like overwhelming demand. It's been so great. And we want it to be a place that's like accessible for everyone. You don't need to be a massive basketball fan. We just want it to be a fun environment. I've been to some of the Scepters games and they're so fun, and tons of people have their kids there, and we want to have that same kind of environment.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned you don't have to be a huge basketball fan to, and I think you're seeing that now, like, right? Like we're in the thick of March Madness, and dare I say, more people are tuning into the women's bracket than they are the men's right now, and they have been over the last couple of years. We're seeing that shift of sorts, and because women's sports, not even just basketball, it's becoming a vibe. It's people are taking to it. And so whether you are someone who, like all of us, like we grew up loving the game and then not even wondering if this day could even come, or you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm a proud bandwagoner, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The more the merrier at this point.
100%. Like it's a welcoming place for everyone. And like on March Madness, last year's finals, like more people watched the women's finals than the men's. And I think it's because people too are really, these are amazing athletes.
Amazing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they're really good storytellers too.
Yeah. I guess we'll wrap things up with our rapid fire.
Okay. Final five.
Yeah, we got a few minutes left. Yeah, we have a few minutes left. But so this is something that we ask for all of our guests who stop by the studio and join us on Mama and Her. So Shannon, go ahead.
All right. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Motherhood is
beautiful.
What is the best advice about motherhood you have ever been given?
To give yourself grace. I think, yes.
What is the worst advice you've been given about motherhood?
Sleep when the baby is sleeping.
Yeah.
I only say that because it was the only time I felt like I had time to be myself, and I could not sleep.
I agree.
And everyone just kept telling me to sleep, and I'm like, I just need a little time for me.
I wish my mom told me.
Not to go in tanning beds. This is not to do with mothers at all.
I love that. Okay. This is the final one, right? Mm-hmm. what would you tell your younger self if you could?
I've said it a few times, but I think everything happens for a reason. And so just trust the process. And if you are a good person and you work hard, things will turn out okay.
I love that.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Beautiful.
Whitney, thank you so much. We appreciate your time here, just opening up, learning more about you, and even just the excitement, yes, around the tempo, but just knowing, they have an amazing CMO at the helm. So we're really excited to see where that goes, and just your journey to motherhood and all of the ups and downs that you've experienced. So we really do appreciate that. When it comes to, for our viewers who are listening and they want to keep up to date with all things Tempo or all things Whitney, where can they find you?
Yeah. Follow Tempo on any social handle. So at Toronto Tempo, on Instagram, probably is the biggest one. Myself personally, probably on LinkedIn is people can reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk more about my story and help, people that are going through something similar. So that would be great. No, thank you so much for having me. I think what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
You're both amazing. And so it's really important to have these conversations.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right.
Well, that wraps up the episode.
That about does it. Again, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Again, whether it's just a few minutes or it's the full hour, we appreciate you being part of our Mama and Her community. So on behalf of Whitney, Shannon, and myself, until the next episode of Mama and Her, we will catch you next time. Bye.